Fuck yeah, exactly, exactly. And what happens there, right? You get to write your own playbook. You get to make mistakes. You get to learn new and different information.
A lot of like popular people who are teaching other people how to be successful, how to build this business, get 10 million in revenue, and don't forget to buy my course for 10 grand.
Right. Find the reason is, and what makes me different from those kinds of so-called coaches is that I don't even have a formula. I don't know what the magic thing is for you, Michael, or for the next person that's watching this video. We unlock more opportunity and we unlock more focus and momentum. For me, it's journey. You've got to have ambition to want to make something happen that doesn't yet exist in the world. I'm more of like a 1% at a time kind of guy. Every time you take a 1% risk, you get 100% new information. The same job done by two different people can cause wildly different forms of burnout.
Oh, hey, Dave, how's it going?
Good
to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Before we start, I just want to do a quick reminder that we publish each second weekend, so you can kickstart your Monday with some advice from our guests. And today, with no hesitation, I would like to present you to Dave. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, for those people who might not know you, can you actually explain us a little bit more? What do you do? Why do you do that? And what is your goal?
Yeah. So I'm an executive coach. That's my title. That's the commonly referred to term for a wide range of coaching or really being in the presence with someone else that I do. 5 years from now, I hope to not even have the term coach in my title, if I'm being really honest, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what coaching is, like it's giving advice or providing counsel or telling someone what to do. There's also a sense, broadly speaking, that a coach is the one with all the information. They have all the plays in the playbook. And the client is, clueless and helpless and needs to know from the coach what to do and when to do it. That's not the way I operate, and that's not the way a lot of great coaches operate. We are, and the way that I coach is a very diplomatic, very mutual experience of being in the presence of one another, understanding what's really important to the client, what that topic is. So whether it's a topic related strictly to life or their lifestyle or life events, or it's related to business, whether they're a business owner or perhaps in the C-suite of a larger organization, or if they are a founder or they're in like middle management and they've got a whole different set of responsibilities and challenges and opportunities, obligations, expectations. My job is, the way I look at this, is not to be brilliant. It is to be present with my clients in the exploration of these topics that are really important to them so that they can make progress and gain more confidence in their decision making, in their risk-taking abilities, and in their resilience after taking those risks. So that's a very broad definition in the sense of what I do, but it's not medicine, it's not math, it's not financial, it's not something that's done by the numbers. It's really done in the presence with other people.
I see. And my question for you, actually, so what you mentioned, it's like a lot of people don't really understand what it is. They think, because of this YouTube, it's a lot of like popular people who are teaching other people how to be successful, how to build this business, get 10 million in revenue, and don't forget to buy my course for 10 grand.
Right.
So we're not gonna name those people here, but it's a lot of those people out kind of basically like pursuing their own goals rather than teaching other people. And my question to you, how are you different from those people?
First of all, thanks for noticing and calling it out the way that you did. And while those kinds of services or offerings might be helpful for some entrepreneurs or some aspiring business owners, they're generally not particularly helpful for most. And I find the reason is, and what makes me different from those kinds of so-called coaches, is that I don't even have a formula. I don't know what the magic thing is for you, Michael, or for the next person that's watching this video. My job is to sit down with them or walk with them and understand what gifts, what kind of power, what kind of energy, what kind of purpose they bring to the work that they want to do. And from that, we unlock more opportunity and we unlock more focus and momentum, right? From that place of what is inside of them, inside of their inner being and their desires for what they want to create in the world, that's where we draw inspiration. The how work gets done after that, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it tends to reveal itself relatively easily, and then you have to go do the work. But I don't believe that there is, a silver bullet or a one-size-fits-all way of growing a business or whatever it is, whether it's you want to be a millionaire or you want to have a very modest income but do something artistic and beautiful, or maybe you want to do both.
Yeah, okay, I see.
That the way in which you execute on that is not as important as the why and your ability to stick with it. And I think that is what I really help work with people on.
Okay, so it's why you do that. Now but is it what's most important, let's say, journey or a goal? The way how you do that, or the way your end position where you get?
For me, it's journey.
Journey? Okay.
Here's part of the reason why. We can have a goal and we can start pursuing that goal. And in pursuit of that goal, we get slapped in the face by the real world.
Yeah.
And the real world might dictate an alternative goal that reveals itself as more important, more achievable, more honest, more interesting, right? So I don't really care what the starting goal is. I care that you get going towards that goal. Okay. And that in the journey or in the process of moving towards that goal, you are consuming as much information, as much data as possible to understand, is the meaning of that goal still important to me? Is the way I'm pursuing it working? And is there anything I might want to do differently, or is there any way I might want to be differently in pursuit of this goal or another one, now that I've got this new information as I move towards that goal?
And who are those people who are looking for the help? Who are those, I would say not even looking for the help. Who are those people who really need that help?
You've got to have ambition to want to make something happen that doesn't yet exist in the world, or that doesn't exist your way. So the people that need the kind of coaching that I do are ambitious. They are high achieving. They are determined. But they also may need something to help them get unstuck. Like they keep getting to an impasse or more than one impasse, and they're afraid to act, or they feel as though they or may not have enough information to act or enough confidence to act. So the people that I tend to work with, and I don't know that I can really say holistically around the world who needs coaching. I don't know that I can honestly answer that question, but I can say that the people that I work with and then the outcomes we create for them tend to revolve around more confidence, more assertive and dynamic decision making, and a kind of resilience that comes from exposing oneself to more experiments and more risk taking over time.
Do you recommend just take a lot of risk and then see the result, or you're more step by step, little by little? What's your strategy?
It's mostly step by step.
Okay, so you're not
go. No. I'm more of a 1% at a time kind of guy. And the reason for that is because every time you take a 1% risk, you get 100% new information, right? So what we're trying to do here is leverage an action for as much information as you can get back from that action.
I see.
If you overextend yourself, or if you take too large of a risk, you could put yourself into such a problematic situation that you don't even have the wherewithal, the capacity at that time to even notice the new information, the useful information for the next 1%, right?
Okay.
So if you were to take a massive leap of faith, and that is highly recommended by a lot of gurus and a lot of influencers out there, right? But if you were to go and do that, you could survive, you know, right? But it's like a capital R risk. It's so excessive of a risk that you may more likely find yourself scrambling just to survive, or just to put yourself back together, or to make meaning of what just happened there, to get yourself out of a jam, that you're not really creating the psychologically safe space for yourself to learn what needed to be learned from that smaller risk.
I see.
Also, what's the rush?
Well, maybe I'm young and I want to make a lot of money.
So give me an age that feels young to you.
Say 25.
Okay, so you're 25, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not 25.
No, but like this
Well,
like
but when you're-
this imaginary person
Yeah,
that's like in a
correct.
rush, right?
Yes.
Because they're 25.
Yes, correct.
When does this person expect to die?
Well, with our technology, I think 85, probably 95.
Okay, so this person then has 60 to 65 years
Yes, correct.
to make some magic happen out there in the world.
Yeah, well, let's subtract like maybe 20 years, because it will be like when you're super old, you know.
No, I reject that.
Really? Why?
Yeah, because there are lawyers who practice till they're 90.
Oh,
There are adventurers who explore until they die out on a mountain.
okay.
There are
makes sense.
cyclists who work their ass off until they can no longer ride a bike again.
Well, you're actually right. I think it's really about like high achievers. They never stop, no
Okay.
matter how old they are.
So what's the rush for a high achiever?
Well, I think, because sometimes you feel, especially again, if we get the 25 years old person, we kind of feel that we're losing our time, and we want to get, because of the social media, again, we're getting really exposed to social media, and we see all of those like successful people who are getting their money. It's like 18-year-old kid who are like, you know, he has Lambos, Ferraris, and we want to have the same, but somehow we don't have it.
Yeah. So is the real appropriate next step to do shit faster, or is the real appropriate next step to get honest about the goal?
I think honest about the goal.
What happens when you reshape a goal on your own terms?
Well, you kind of play your own game.
Fuck yeah, exactly, exactly. And what happens there, right? You get to write your own playbook. You get to make mistakes. You get to learn new and different information that maybe your competitors or your peers aren't learning, or they're not interested in learning. Also, if you play the long game, you tend to stay in the game longer. You don't flame out. You don't burn out. You don't compromise your reputation. You don't compromise relationships quite as much, because you're smooth, slow, and steady. Right? And you're working over time towards amassing. Like, if you want beautiful cars and beautiful friends and beautiful homes and beautiful vacations, right? Talk me through what the rush is to have that at all at 25, rather than savoring it over time. That sounds pretty nice, dude.
Yeah. I mean, you know, well, but a lot of people, again, like, you know, this 25 to 34, this range, it's actually people who are watching us. They're mainly like, I think 60% are males. So the male population from 25 to 34. And I think I saw that in TikTok again, the guy was complaining that, you know, he feels that, you know, he is losing his life trying to stay and do his job rather than, you know, go and try to pursue other career, but he has to make a huge leap, basically, jump over his head. So what do you think about this?
I don't know. I don't know that guy. I don't know his situation. But so I can't, I don't know if I can speak to that specific example, but what for? that if you were sitting in front of me right now, one
Yes.
question I would ask him wouldn't be what for. What do you want to make this big career transition for?
More money, more establishment. A lot of people are like basically chasing this dream, I would say.
Okay.
So
And
again,
what for, right? And I would keep asking that question. So kind of back to your,
okay.
earlier you were like, how does the coaching work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
If you were paying me to be your coach right now, and you came to me with this confession that I want to change my career path, but it feels like a huge leap, and it also feels like I'd have to give up so much in order to do it. One of my first questions for you would likely be, what for? What's the point? Talk me through the point and get really honest about it.
I'm mainly pursuing more like trying to build a huge company and give a lot of people jobs. But let's say if I'm trying to get and earn as much money as I can, what's for? So it could be like to look cool, some sort of like a child trauma when you're trying to, compensate over time your trauma, and, you got bullied maybe, and now you want to like say that, hey, look, I got it
Look
now.
at me,
Yeah,
right.
look at me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So-
my response to that would be, they don't fucking care.
Ah,
My response would be that you can amass all the wealth in the world and get the spotlight on you for all of that wealth that you have earned, and then finally have your chance to stand on the mountaintop and say, look at me. And all of the people that didn't care about you before will not care about you anymore, just because you amassed that whatever. Right?
I see. I never thought about that, being honest.
The work that I tend to do with people is more about deeply knowing themselves. And from that expanded place of self-awareness, they tend to get a lot more clear on their goals and the meaning of those goals. So that moment that you just had, that was like, oh, I never really thought about that before. Then the next step would be, and now that you have thought about it, what does that mean? How does that make your goal different? How do you see the goal differently?
Well, if I was only trying to pursue money, basically it doesn't make any sense. But we can switch it to the angle where you can say, again, in my case, like building the company, giving a lot of people jobs so they can feed their families. And overall, I like this idea that you can build like huge headquarters, in the middle of Chicago. Now they're building like a Google, this huge round building. When it was running in downtown, I saw this building and I'm like, wow, that is so inspirational. And I want to be like this guy who built this company.
Yes, great. So what is it about your idealized version of the guy that's building that you want to have inside of you?
Probably the guy who's trying to pursue this company that... The idea how you build a huge company is basically you have to solve some domain problem. That's how I see that. So... in my case, try to see this and identify these domain problems, then get with a solution and try to grow the company from this stage.
Okay, so let's flash forward to when would you like to solve this currently unidentified problem that you would like to?
When you mean like my age?
How many years from now?
From now, well, I would say I would try. Maybe 5 years. 5
Okay,
years. 5
great.
years.
So 5 years. So 5 years from now.
Yes.
Right. You did it.
Okay.
You solved the problem
Yes.
that no one else could solve.
Yes.
How has that process changed you?
I think I got better. I think differently. I have more resources, so I can do a lot of exciting new project as well. Also from my character standpoint, I'm more resilient. I am more determined. I have this experience that nobody really have.
No one can take away from you.
Yes.
So now you have evidence, unequivocal evidence that you are capable of solving the problem no one else could solve.
Yes.
that creates confidence,
Mm-hmm.
momentum, courage. I think it expands your courage. I think it expands your comfort zone to then solve the next big problem that
Mm-hmm.
someone else hasn't solved yet. If you want to. You could also choose to be like, fuck it, I want to be on a beach. I did 5 years of problem solving, and now I want to do 5 years of beach and cocktails. And that would be perfectly fine too, if that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as long as it's also not, generally speaking, hurting anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Well, I think those people who got to this stage, what I hear a lot, even, I'm not gonna say about the name of this guy, but I know the guy, he's a billionaire, right? And he still comes, he works at weekends. He could be on a beach somewhere, like on his yacht, I don't know, but he
Yeah.
still comes and he has this courage. So I think when you got to this point, there is a pretty low chance that you will want to stay rested until the end of your life.
So we are potentially, if you'd like to take it here, on a really important topic for the pace of today's life, which is burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And the same job done by two different people can cause wildly different forms of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
For one person, it could cause no burnout at all. For the
Mm-hmm.
other, it could be devastating burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And the example you give of the gentleman who works 7 days a week, and let's assume he likes to,
Yes.
for the sake of the argument I'm presenting here, burnout is less of a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we derive joy from our activities, and if those activities happen to look like business activities,
Mm-hmm.
the joy feeds your energy, your time, your recovery. Like, you want what's inside of that business problem-solving experience.
Mm-hmm.
That is totally different
Mm-hmm.
than someone who is working 7 days a week at either a job they don't like, or in a role that they don't like, or for a reason that they don't like, or more importantly, for a reason that they never genuinely examined.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? If they can't answer that question, or if they answer it and they don't like the answer and they keep doing it, that person's going to be really burned out. They're going to have a completely different experience than the man or woman who genuinely enjoys what they are doing. And I think that's a little bit of like a misconception in the working world, is that to work 7 days a week or to never separate from one's job is absolutely unhealthy. And I don't really agree with that, because there are some people in the world, artists, musicians, writers, right? We think about people who do their craft all the time as only being in the humanities.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't agree with that. I think there are a lot of people whose craft is sales or real estate or business building, being an executive. Like, they actually love that. They have found their place in that. Software development, right?
Yeah.
They love it. So the burnout is not always tied to the amount of hours of work. The burnout is tied to the relationship someone has to the work. And if that's an unhealthy relationship, then burnout's going to happen. If it's a healthy, thriving, like mutually beneficial one, they're less likely, at least, to have burnout.
But is it okay to burn out even though you love your work and you're enjoying the process and the way how you do all of that?
Is it okay to burn out? That the way that you phrase that, the reason I'm repeating it is because I'm really processing that kind of binary. Is it bad or good to burn out? I feel as though, and so I don't have like psychological data to back this up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm about to tell you is an opinion.
Yeah.
But I feel that burnout supported by recovery
Mm-hmm.
can potentially be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I just said there, everyone that watches this or listens to this needs to take with a grain of salt, because I am not absolving someone of indulging burnout. That is an unhealthy way to approach someone's life. right? I think burnout from work can and does symptomatically often resemble burnout from too much partying or too much sex or too much frivolous behavior, too much gambling. Burnout drains us.
Yes.
It depletes us entirely of the neurochemicals that we need to live a happy, healthy life. And if that's what's happening to you on a regular basis, that is not okay.
Not okay on a regular basis. Okay.
No, but if you have a project that an occasional project, let's take launches, for example,
Yes.
like a product launch or a business launch. That's not happening every day unless you maybe are in like a go-to-market marketing team or product development team. But for most of us, launching doesn't happen every day. It's a ramp up. It's like political campaigns, right? There's like a 3 or a 6 or a 9 month process. And then there's an election day.
Yes.
And things quiet down a little bit after that, theoretically. At least for the campaign worker, they do for a little bit. And there is theoretically a moment to recover.
Yes.
Hopefully more than just a moment. So the broad strokes, what I feel about if burnout is okay is a degree of burnout can be okay as long as it's coupled with a robust process of recovery. So what might that look like? The burnout includes long nights, long days, difficult conversations, roadblocks along the way towards completion, and frustration, and a lot of sacrifice, and not feeling like you're connected to the work, and just not even feeling like you're connected to life. That's a lot of what burnout can look like. You're not exercising well, you're not eating well, you're not taking care of your body, you're not taking care of your whole person. Now we're burnt out, right? Okay. Let's say that happens over the course of a few months, maybe a year. Stop.
Yes.
And then invest equal, if not more, time in recovery. And what does that look like? It might look like leaving that job. It might look like leaving that role.
Yeah.
It might look like not launching the next thing until your body tells you it's genuinely ready.
And you're ready.
Yeah, and that might require working with a professional who can also help you understand if or when you're ready. So that could be a coach, a psychologist, a physical therapist, a trainer, just anyone in like the wellness and helping field tends to want to help someone who is burnt out, not be burnt out anymore. And also notice the symptoms of burnout earlier the next time it happens, so that they can adjust their work or life or that project to make sure that they're less likely to experience that same kind of burnout again.
I see. And so circling back to the coaching.
Yeah.
So I know that you have your special, I would say, framework, the way how you work.
Yeah.
And can you explain us a little bit more on that point?
Yeah. And it's a framework. I would say it's a tool. So it's something that someone can use entirely on their own if they never even talk to me. It's called the Dave method. I call it the most narcissistic self-coaching tool in America. And the Dave method stands for discover, accept, visualize, and experiment.
Oh, okay, I see.
And this is a cycle, really, that one can go through purposefully through a process of change. So to discover, what I mean by that is to look at a situation as though you have never experienced it before. We often find ourselves in adulthood doing things that we've done before. You know, they're familiar. And with that familiarity comes operating in a familiar way, behaving in a familiar way, making a lot of assumptions based on how it went in the past. And to discover something familiar is to look at it like Charles Darwin coming upon an island of completely new flora and fauna that the explorer has never seen before, and going, I don't even have the words to describe what that animal is or what that tree is. Like, that's what it means to purposefully and effortfully look at a familiar situation in a completely new way
Mm-hmm.
in order to discover what's happening in that situation. In a physical way, what that looks like is to write that down, to talk about it out loud, to put it up on a whiteboard, to get it out of you and on paper, so to speak, so that you can then look at that and accept, here we go, step 2, accept the difference between the fiction and the fact of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And just as a quick pro tip, there are far more fictions than there are facts in any situation that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we as human beings do with new and recurring experiences is we do storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Our brain goes into storytelling mode. So we apply and we project and we assume what's happening in a situation based on the same or similar types of situations we've had in the past. But a lot of that is fiction.
Really?
So let's take an example. You're launching a business, right?
Yes.
And so let's say 5 years ago you launched business A,
Yes.
right? And you're eager to launch a new business, business B. If you were to approach the launch of business B the exact same way you did A,
Mm-hmm.
you probably will not launch it as well as you could launch it because you are not including new information that you learned from business A, as well as forgetting a lot of what you learned in business A so that you can absorb and notice what is new, what is opportunistic, what's different about this new opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to run that all through a filter in this accept phase. And that filter is to weed out what is fact versus what is fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So facts, think of facts as something that two different people can observe and come to the same conclusion on. So for example, this microphone is red.
Okay.
Is this microphone red?
Agree.
Facts. Great.
Yeah.
And my wife swears I'm a little colorblind, but I can still see that this thing is red. Okay, so fact, this microphone is red,
Yes.
right? Here's what's not a fact. This microphone pisses me off.
Mm.
Does
Okay,
this
that's
microphone
your
piss you
opinion.
off?
Okay, that's
No,
your
yeah,
opinion.
this is my emotions and feelings. I'm
Mhm.
pissed.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
I see.
We're going to move that over to the fiction.
Mhm.
But one fact we can still work with is red microphones.
Mhm.
Right? So let's say this business idea is that we want to get into the business of selling red microphones.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go anywhere in selling red microphones if I'm also holding on to the fiction that red microphones piss me off. Because how the hell am I going to sell a product that pisses me off every day?
Mhm.
Right? But if I can let go of that and just focus on the fact that this is a red microphone, and they actually, the market data, which you and I can look at and agree is looking quite strong for the demand of red microphone caps. Well, we got to get out there and sell some red microphones, right?
Yeah, and make some money.
Yeah. So that's a massively oversimplified
Mhm.
little metaphor for how to separate fact from fiction.
Mm-hmm. So basically, entire framework based on separating the fiction from the facts. Am I
Yes,
correct?
because when you get down, when you distill down the very small number of facts, you can then move into the visualization phase of this cycle. So we've gone discover, accept, and now we're visualizing. We're visualizing what a version of success could look like based on these facts.
Now I see. Now it makes sense.
Okay, so I've discovered what is new about this opportunity. I've accepted and gotten very clear on the facts about this opportunity. Now I'm going to visualize what's possible as a result of this opportunity. And I'm not talking about manifestation, which I don't even really know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm talking about is if I were to infer what is possible based on this data I have in front of me, this small set of facts, then the future could look like this, right? Either the market opportunity or this relationship with this person that I want to work on, or this geography that I'm interested in moving to or exploring or going on a vacation on, whatever, you know. It appears to be that based on these facts, I can see myself experiencing X. All right. While visualizing this one particular ideal scenario, I always challenge people to be open to the possibility that other scenarios could emerge that are even better than the one that they visualized. Think about it like this. I'm only one man, so I'm only working with what's inside my brain. And if I could only imagine the best of what my brain can come up with, I'm leaving so much on the table for what's possible. So what I'm interested in is, my vision for what could be cool and amazing and interesting, but also having an open mind to the possibility that what might emerge instead could be even better.
I see. You're actually I like your approach, because it seems like it's really based on facts. It's based on some you have some data that is, so it's not just a blind shot.
No.
You're more like a data analyst, you're analyzing based on facts. You kind of try to separate that from the fiction.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're doing statistics.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to come up with some sort of a solution, and then based on that solution you can get to the point where you can think about some new possible outcomes.
Yeah. And that's where we get to experimentation. All right, so now we're doing discover, accept, visualize. We've done everything you just described, and now it's time to take action. And that's why experimentation is the last part of this cycle. And that's why I call it experimentation. It's because if you can approach the next step of action, of decision making, loosely, like not attached to the outcome, but rather attached to the process of executing, the way a great scientist does in an experiment. Like, the best scientists in the world, in human history, they were not attached to the outcome of their experiments. They were attached to what's called high fidelity experiments. Their experimental procedures, their experimental models were reliable. That's what was important to them. That way they could trust the data that comes out on the other end of the experiment as being factual, or as close to the facts as possible.
I see.
And when you can embrace an experimenter's mindset or an experimenter's approach, you also just hold the task more loosely, lightly. Like, it's one of many experiments you can run to get to a desired outcome. It doesn't have to be the first or last one. It doesn't have to be the only one. It can be one of many. We're just experimenting here. We're just trying some things out. Right?
Yeah.
Get to the end of experimentation. Wide, interesting, dynamic set of new data to work with, and then you dive into the cycle again. Discover it, accept what's new and different, visualize the next phase, and experiment towards that.
And I know that you have some news coming. I know that you have one exciting project for those people who want to try themselves. And so can you tell us about that?
The defectors.
Yes. So we will go right to the board.
All right, let's check it out.
All right, guys, I just want to say a huge thank you to Venture X in Deerfield. They've done an amazing job hosting us today with our podcast. And I just want to say thank you to Camille, that she was always greeting us with her beautiful smile.